How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Cap Table Travel Edition. All right, I'm here with Aaron Dillon, Managing Director of AGDillon and Co. And Aaron, I gotta start off the episode by saying props to you. All right, Lambda with a big announcement today. You've been a Lambda investor for a while right now. What do you think about this new announcement? What does this mean for your investors?
Yeah, so Lambda, for those that don't know, it's a AI infrastructure company. They are an AI data center play, right? So they get GPUs from NVIDIA and then set up cloud services and then provide those to enterprises and developers, et cetera, right? But I think it's an amazing company. It fits smack in the thesis of kind of what we look for in an AI infrastructure company, specifically because they have they are getting allocations of GPUs, which is huge, right? Like
Yeah,
if you're the head of sales in NVIDIA, you can give these GPUs to anybody. So like giving them to a smaller kind of startup type company, venture-backed company is like a big deal. But then also too, like NVIDIA is very smart. They're strategic, so they're also an investor in Lambda. So giving them the chips, which is basically like giving somebody revenue, and then also participate in the cap table of the company. So very similar business to CoreWeave. If folks know CoreWeave, right? It was same thing. NVIDIA GPUs. NVIDIA's an investor on the cap table. CoreWeave went public, and now folks are kind of seeing what's going on with them. So that's the business, and it's very much in kind of line with our investment theme for the space. And um, and yeah, look, I like what's happened just this week is they announced a new CEO, right? And then they had a new chairman come in too, two big like heavy hitters. So like Lambda's already
yeah,
signaled that they're going to go public, and now you can tell they're loading up their executive suite with like guys who have done this stuff before and ran public companies, right? And Balaban, who was the founder and CEO prior, Stephen Balaban, he's now shifting to kind of like chief technology officer. So guys that founded the company are kind of shifting to these more like technology and product roles, and then they're
yeah.
bringing in, call it like, more experienced, CEO chairman types, and CFO. They also brought in a new CFO too a couple months ago to help with the proper IPO and line up investors and capital. So yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah.
pretty exciting news.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, there are a couple modes that you're looking for to like differentiate yourself and protect your product and your business right now, especially with like the SaaS apocalypse that's happening and, other industries kind of going under being affected by Claude and other LLMs like that. But it seems like NVIDIA being on your cap table is like a moat in and of itself. Like it just separates you from everyone else because everyone's in line for these GPUs. And if you're a priority and you get those GPUs first, like you're way ahead of the game already. Like
That's
the
right.
NVIDIA cap table player, do you think that the NVIDIA being on your cap table is now required for you to actually follow an AI infrastructure company?
Uh, I don't know if it would be required. I would say that, like the potential, the probability of you winning, right? Having a good outcome as an investor, I think it certainly de-risks the investment, if not accelerates the return, right? By having NVIDIA on the cap table. And I think primarily, like, especially for these AI infrastructure plays around data centers, uh, specifically, like you need the GPUs. Full
Yeah.
stop, right? Like there's NVIDIA, there's Google TPU, like some of the other guys, Intel, Broadcom, they're starting to do some stuff. There's some, inference players that are coming up, down the pipe, Positron and some other people like this, right? But like it's GPUs are like that's still like the gold standard. So if you have that, that's like revenue.
Yeah.
It's revenue. So yeah, I mean, like I think if they're on your cap table, the chance that you're going to get an allocation of GPUs from NVIDIA is pretty good,
Yeah.
so like that it doesn't hurt, doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So like it's a good I think like risk off component as an investor. That's how I would put it.
So I guess we'll talk about this now because everyone's trying to look at like the moat, like because Claude, Anthropic, they can touch you in so many different ways and affect your business. Let's say Nvidia is like them being on your cap table, okay, it raises your chances. I want to talk to you about forward deployed engineers and
Yeah,
what that means for businesses right now. Because when you were raising for Harvey, I remember thinking like, why can't ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini just basically replace them? And you said it really came down to forward deployed engineers. Like maybe you could talk a little bit about
sure.
what sort of impact they have on businesses.
Okay, so if you're not following Aaron Levy, who's Box's CEO on Twitter or X, you should be doing that because he's like constantly talking about how hard it is for businesses and enterprises to implement AI, right? And really the core of it is these forward deployed engineers, right? So like OpenAI just announced they did this JV, or this, I guess it was an acquisition or a JV, but they now have like the OpenAI deployment company. Okay, Anthropic did a huge deal with a whole bunch of banks, $1.5 billion like private equity fund to help implement AI into businesses. Um, Harvey, Glean, several other what I would call like AI application companies are now have forward deployed engineers. So I think what's becoming very obvious is that and I can talk about what forward deployed engineers, but maybe Aaron, like just a question for you. Like you're a pretty savvy guy, technical guy. Like, are you implementing AI, like AI workflows in your kind of business life right now, right? Skills, Claude
Yeah,
Cowork,
yeah, of
that kind of
course.
stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
Like,
mean, I'm using everything.
but
You
like
have
what,
to.
like it's so to get into it though, like is it easy to do? Is it hard to do? Like, what's your perspective? I have a perspective, but I'm interested in yours.
Yeah, sure. So I listen, I actually haven't played with Cowork that much. I kind of just started with Claude Code because I really wanted
Okay.
to get into the nitty-gritty details of exactly everything works. But I mean, I have it from like verifying data, especially in the private market, like verifying numbers over and over and over again. Verify these numbers for me 3 times, then return it to me. Then I'll take a look at it myself. I do a lot of content stuff. I got it scripting everything for me. I use it all the time. I have a second
Yeah,
computer next to me right now that I just I plug it in, before bedtime. I wake up and I have like, everything I need
that's
for the
right.
next day. So I'm
All
using
right.
it all the time.
So those are like pretty sophisticated prompts if you're doing stuff and it's running overnight, right? I would like that. I'm trying now to set up my business where I'm trying to go AI first, right? So, any kind of task, repeatable task, I'm trying to automate that with AI. And any kind of new thing that I want to be doing, I'm trying to think about how I can do that with AI first, like build the workflow so it's AI first. But what I'm quickly realizing, and of course I'm doing this, and I'm all doing it as kind of a consumer, but also doing it as a as an investor with my investor hat on, is like the AI is very smart, but it will kind of like always default to the path of least resistance. So
Yeah.
like for example, I have this website where I need to download like CSV files, right? Um, if I try, there's an API, but I don't have API access. Every time I queue up Claude to do it, it always tries to go to the API, right? So I have to explicitly tell it to not go to the API, use the Chrome UI to go and download it, and then it's like no problem, and it does it no problem. But like that, like level of specificity is important, okay? And then of course, if you have multiple tasks that are going to execute one after another, if one of them fails, the other four don't even run, right?
Yeah.
So this idea of like the specificity, because you can imagine being in a business in an enterprise, right, with different database systems and different access to information and timing matters, right, and all of this stuff. If one thing breaks, none of it works, right? So as you have these like agentic solutions happening, it's important to really dial it in and make sure that it's very specific in the way that you're writing these prompts. It's like articulated well and it's unique to that specific company and their specific workflows and their specific policies and procedures and their specific databases. It gets complicated fast, right? But once you get it done, it's great. Okay. Once you've
Yeah.
solved for that and you've tested it and it works, it runs forever. If a human was doing that task, a human will never have to do that task again. Okay.
Mhm.
And you can instantly replicate that by 1,000. You see, it's really powerful. Forward deployed engineers come in and do that for companies. And that's the key thing. That's the key thing that I think few people understand. So like enterprises realize that they want to implement AI, and I think in fact, their investor base and analysts, stock analysts, are like requiring it now, but they can't figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And more often than not, it's not only just like a technical thing, it's also like you have to update policies and procedures to be AI first. You might have to change the way teams are structured so that it's AI first. Like there's process
Huge
process
applications.
policies procedure. It's like it's very important to do it because you can drive a lot of value to the bottom line or the top line, right, on your income statement. But it's not like a simple thing to do, right? And I think that's what people are starting to realize, and that's why these forward deployed engineers are becoming critical. So, you know, just to kind of drill down on that for like just 2 more minutes. So like a forward deployed engineer would come into a company, they would understand where the data is for a particular workflow. Okay, what data do we need? Proprietary data. They would take that data, they would structure it so the AI could actually use it, right? Then they would break down the workflow into like multiple tasks, and they would start to automate each task, right? The other thing they do is they identify like a benchmark. Okay, the human fails at this particular workflow 3% of the time. So the
Hmm.
AI has to be 3% or better, right? And then they would automate it. They automate it, and then they run it in parallel to the human. And then wherever the AI fails, the human comes in and corrects it. And over like the span of 3 to 4 months, the
That's
AI is
marginal
now
improvement.
doing it better than 3% failure rate. So you shift everything over to the AI. So like that's a forward what a forward deployed engineer does. And then they get that workflow done, and then they go to the next one, and then they go to the next one, and then they go to the next one. So this quarter they automated 25 workflows. Next quarter another 25, then another 25, then another 25. And that's where you're seeing, right? People are laying employees off because you're hitting critical mass on the amount of stuff that's being automated. You don't need as many people anymore because you're automating large chunks of people's jobs away,
Yeah.
right? So that is what forward deployed engineers do. And for technology companies that offer forward deployed engineer solutions, those companies entrench themselves and have a moat. Like once you're
Yeah.
in, if you're the CEO of a company, you bring in a group and they have forward deployed engineers and they start to build custom workflows unique to your proprietary data, unique to your policies and procedures. They understand, the team at the company, the enterprise knows the forward deployed engineer, trust them, right? There's like a rapport there. There's proven success. You're not coming in and ripping that out. Hard no. That is a
Yeah.
moat. That's a moat. So if you're Harvey or Glean or any of these like AI application companies or OpenAI or Anthropic that are coming in and automating this stuff, that's like very, very powerful, right? That's a very powerful place to be, right? So the reason I like AI application companies as opposed to just like an OpenAI or an Anthropic is that the AI application companies are open architecture on the model that they use. So they'll go through every single task and they'll identify which model out there is the best to complete that task, right? And then they'll also identify if they can use an open source model to complete the task, because then there's like basically no cost. It's like very low cost to
Yeah.
automate that particular portion of the task. So you're maximizing ROI, your return on investment, on any kind of workflow that gets automated. And that's a huge benefit, right? So I think it's a huge benefit because the better the ROI, the more you can automate, the more workflows you can have, better top line revenue, better net income you can have as a company. So like this is really powerful stuff, I think, right? And forward deployed engineers are really important. But the big news, hence the reason we're talking about it, is that OpenAI just did this big deal, OpenAI deployment company, right?
That's
They have
right.
a whole
That's
company
right.
now of people that do this. So it's if you're thinking about investing in this space in these AI application companies, right? So those are companies that sit on top of the models, the model providers, right? In my opinion, they have to have forward deployed engineers and open architecture on the models that are being selected. Those are the two, like they call it investment criteria that I have in that space. So,
So when you're
yeah,
going out there and you're evaluating a company and you're like, okay, am I going to invest in these guys? Are they going to be in our portfolio? Are you taking forward deployed engineer headcount into account when you're doing that?
it's more to me. It's more about that they have a forward deployed engineer team, right? And I mean, you got to have like APIs, and that's like table stakes, right? And all the rest. But I think having a forward deployed engineer team is really important. And then I think, they're hiring more and more people, right? So
Yeah.
everybody's looking for more forward deployed engineers. Everybody is, right? And
Yeah.
so that's becoming a big job. for, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these software developers that are getting like let go from their programming jobs, like shift into a forward deployed engineer,
Probably the most in-demand
type role.
job in the world right now. It's not software engineer anymore. Like we got Claude Code making the code for us. It's really about the forward deployed engineer. Can you name me a job role that's needed more right now than a forward deployed engineer?
I think it's really important. And McKinsey's getting in on this game, and Accenture's getting in on this game. Like, this is it. But what's also important on a more macro level, right, is think about it. Like, you don't businesses haven't even started to implement AI. They haven't even started because this forward deployed engineer thing just started to take effect like 6 to 9 months ago. And for what it's worth, Palantir is the one that created this
Yeah,
concept of a forward. Well, it's always been around, but they like made it famous in like kind of recent times. And it's very counterintuitive because that's like everybody's a snowflake, right? Everybody's a
yeah.
snowflake. It's not like SaaS where you build one thing and then people come in and create account and everybody uses the same software and you kind of there's massive scale. This is kind of like the exact opposite of that, right? So it's not specifically intuitive, but it's
Well,
I think it's a critical part. But the run, dude, Aaron, the run that we're gonna have, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, now that this forward deployed engineer stuff is coming, it's going to be intense,
I mean,
intense.
let's talk about that, Aaron, because Anthropic obviously announced last week that they're partnering with mid-sized firms right now and private equity firms so that they can get the in with like mid-cap companies right now. OpenAI is
Yeah,
coming into the game right now. Like, I don't think that people out there really understand the impact this is going to have. Like, Anthropic alone, OpenAI alone, going into mid-sized businesses that have no clue how to implement AI into their business. I mean, like, it's going to be a free for all.
for
It's
sure.
it's going to be a free for all. This is going to be crazy.
But so this is my bold take. I think OpenAI and Anthropic will do well in some like perhaps more like general type areas. I do think that there's going to be some like domain expertise, and that's where like the Harveys of the world show
Yeah,
up, right? So I do think having an AI application company that knows law cold, okay, and knows how law firms like to work. They also have an open architecture model, and they know that like Kimi K 2.5 model works really great for this particular legal task because they've
Mhm.
done it at 7 other law firms right now, right? And now they're going to do it for the eighth and the ninth and the 10th. So like that type of institutional knowledge is like really powerful. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not sure that like an Anthropic or an OpenAI as like a generalist is going to be able to get into that like level of nuance and detail. So I'm not surprised to see like the Harveys of the world, gaining a lot of traction and taking a lot of market share. I think we'll probably have generalist AI application companies. We'll have industry specific ones. We'll have verticals, HR, right? Finance. Like I think
Yeah,
it'll run the gamut and people will have opinions about what is best and how to, how things work together and all different types of capitalism will pursue, right? But and persist. But I think, that's the nuts and bolts of it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
forward deployed engineers, man, I'm telling you, like this is it. This is like the next 5 to 10 years that those that have the best forward deployed engineers will make the most revenue, my opinion. Right. So it's a major driver of investment return, in my opinion. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. That's a big statement right there. Those who have the forward deployed engineers will be the biggest winners. And you know what, to your credit, like Harvey already has a partnership with OpenAI. Like I don't think that we're going to be seeing all of these big LLMs try to conquer like every single small niche. Like come on, like Anthropic's going to start focusing on the law industry. Like no, like they're going to make applications that can apply across a wide number of businesses.
right.
And also like and I got to ask you this, like what do you think this means for software companies right now, like the SaaS companies out there? Like are they toast? Is it over?
It's interesting. There's been a lot of discussion about SaaS and if they'll be like if there'll still be a role for them. I do think there's going to be a role for them, and I'm saying that because I'm like coding, I'm like building co-work workflows myself right now, and like it calls tools. Okay, it's like a person. So like it's not it's very well in my experience, and I think this would be if you ask developers or forward deployed engineers, I think they would say the same thing. Like, do you want to build an AI like a whole customer relationship management system, or do you want to use Salesforce? Especially if all your data is already in Salesforce, you got humans using Salesforce, right? Like I maybe if you're a small startup company and you're like lean and mean, like you could build your own, AI first software that's proprietary to your company and it's like fit for purpose and really dialed into what exactly you need. But if you're running like a large multinational corporation, I'm not sure that like you're just going to stop using some of these applications, right? In total. Also, like
Yeah.
like a finance application. If you have to report numbers to the SEC in public, are you going to like move over to a proprietary homegrown thing, or are you going to use the technology and solutions that have been out there that are kind of like industry standard and accepted? So, you know,
I think
I
that
don't.
the platforms, the SaaS companies that have data, like their moat is their data. Where like Zoom Info has
That's fair.
the data, Salesforce already has all of your data in there. Like I think those guys are going to be safe, but I don't know. I just think that like a company that does like a basic function, if you're a mid-sized company and you have a software engineering team, it's like maybe you're already laying them off. I don't know. If they haven't been fired yet, put them to work and like make your proprietary systems. Otherwise,
For sure.
I think these guys are toast. 2 million in market cap has already been wiped off the software
Yeah.
industry in
I
just like 4 months.
listen. I don't know if I would be like I don't think I'm a buyer as an investor of these companies, right? I don't think so. Maybe to be more specific, if I have my investor hat on, I'm not a buyer of these companies right now
Yeah,
but I do I think that their products and solutions can add value. I do, right? I do. I just think the challenging part will be is they're going to have to go probably through a revenue shift, right? And then the way that like the discounted cash flows, the way that those businesses will be valued going forward will be different, right, than how they've been valued in the past. I think that those have been like cash flow businesses, recurring revenue businesses. They've gotten like big revenue multiples and revenue premiums. I don't think that those businesses will have those kind of premiums anymore. And they're going to have to they're going to have to probably shift back to more of like a value play and maybe even start doing dividends and some other things like that, right? For their
yeah,
stock to kind of maintain. So it's a very different model. I mean, you can see a lot of them are a lot of the SaaS companies are definitely trying to become AI companies. They're trying to become
yeah,
AI application companies. So to this extent that some of those guys can make that shift and be successful at it, that could be interesting. But for those that are just kind of hanging on for dear life in this AI, kind of that SaaS, the traditional SaaS business, I think those folks are going to be in a world, their investors will be in a world of hurt. Their product still may add value and persist, but I think as an investment, that's going to be a tough investment going forward. Right.
yeah, yeah. I'm with you too. I mean, people are so excited and have so much confidence with Anthropic and OpenAI and Gemini right now. And I gotta ask you because I know you must get 100 calls a week saying, "Get me some Anthropic. Can I have some OpenAI?" But and you say there are better companies to look at, but for the investor out there who's looking at pre-IPO stocks and for looking to invest in pre-IPO stocks, when they say,
Yeah.
okay, I see Anthropic partnering with private equity firms and I see OpenAI's announcement that they're also going to be working with forward deployed engineers to implement their LLM into these businesses, they see this path for exponential revenue growth. And you're still telling people, forget about Anthropic, forget about OpenAI, buy them in the public market. I'm sure they'll do
Yeah.
fine. You really think that like the growth that's happening with these companies, there are still other companies out there that are have way more room for growth?
Yeah, in the private markets, I think that's the key thing. So like, look, you're like an investor, you got to put your investor hat on, right? So like, you got an open AI, they're probably going to go public later this year, or Anthropic go public later this year, early next year. So you got what, 6 months, 9 months? Like, where are they going to go from a valuation perspective from like right now till their IPO? Okay, and if like if that's 20, 30%, I got to tell you, like for the complexity of the private markets, the fees involved, everything else, the illiquidity, right? I would just say wait and buy it in the public markets. OpenAI has 180, $850 billion valuation. Okay. I think that's like probably a $2 or $3 trillion business in time. Okay. But where are they going to IPO at? Probably close to a trillion. So you can get in now and deal with all the shenanigans in the private markets, right? Or and go from 850 to a trillion. And by the way, be locked up for 6 months afterwards and you can't sell and everything else. Or you can just buy on the IPO day at a trillion and ride it to 2 or 3 trillion. So like
Yeah.
the investment returns is going to be in the public market. So don't get me wrong on these companies. I think these are all amazing companies and they're going to do very, very well. It's just I think you got to put your investor hat on and decide like what's your entry point. Is it going to be in the private markets or is it going to be in the public markets? I think those companies and there's other great companies too. Like Stripe is an amazing company. It's like fully valued in the private markets. Databricks is an amazing company. It's fully valued in the private markets. Like these are businesses that are probably going to be like 500 $750 billion companies, right? Or maybe at least a 2 or a 3x. Those would kind of put around 3x to 500 where they are right now. But I think when they go public, they're going to be kind of around where they are today, maybe a little bit higher. So just wait. Like so that's all. It's just wait and buy it, buy it in the public markets and ride the return there where, if you want to allocate dollars to the private markets and you're going to try to do a 2-3x type return in like 5 years time, there's other companies to look at in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
me
Like,
maybe more of like a portfolio manager investor head on versus
well,
like
that's what we want to hear.
that
Like,
kind of
I'm getting so
yeah.
many people calling me. They see that we're doing this podcast and they're like, give me Anthropic. I just saw that they closed this private equity deal and everything. And I would tell them the same exact thing. And then they're like, okay, fine. But like, what other companies can I look at that I can actually be making? It's almost like they don't believe it. They're like, what other companies out there? What are you guys focusing on where you think that you could do a 3 to 5x or
Oh yeah.
something within the next few years?
Yeah, that's AI infrastructure all day long. It's all the stuff we were talking about earlier, right? AI infrastructure, AI application companies, that's the next 5 years. That's all we'll be talking about, right? So these companies will go public, right? The SpaceX's, OpenAI's, Anthropics, all, et cetera. They'll go public, and then everyone will turn their eyes to this next tranche of stuff coming through, which will be all AI infrastructure companies and AI application companies. So the infrastructure companies will kind of be like the boring 3 to 5x. The AI application companies will be ones that have potential to go 5 to 10x. That will
Interesting.
be that, but some of the AI application companies could also be zeros, right? So this
Yeah.
is where it will start to get interesting, right? Because I think you're gonna kind of, back in the day when SaaS companies were coming through, like some SaaS companies were zeros and some of them were home runs, grand slams. And I think that's the same thing that we'll have with AI application companies. AI infrastructure companies, I think, will be a little bit different because there's just going to be so much demand, right? So there'll be a little
Yeah.
bit of a better, more attractive risk-adjusted return profile. So that's why I like AI infrastructure because I think it's got a really attractive risk-adjusted return profile. Like, what's wrong with 3x in 5 years? What's wrong with that? That's
Nothing wrong with
great. That's killer. I'll do that all day long and twice on Sunday, right? Like, awesome. Let's go. So, like, like that's my thing. Is I think it's just that, and it's a moment in time because once we build that stuff out, like in the next 5 to 7 years, we've kind of like saturated the AI infrastructure effort. Like that moment will have passed, right? And you'll probably be looking at these things in more like 1.5x, type return in 5 years time, which is I guess still good, right? It's
So Aaron,
nothing to
let's
poo
talk
poo,
about
but
that because you
yeah,
said last episode that you're laser
yeah,
focused on AI infrastructure and like
that's
you're
right.
going all in. And
Yeah,
I got like everything that you're telling me about these companies. I'm like, it's just so compelling. It might not be the sexiest thing in the world. It's not like, the new Anthropic maybe, but these are like the picks and shovels of the new revolution. Like
yeah,
this is it. This is
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
last time we talked a little bit about Base 10, and right now I want to know like what are the three companies that you're looking at right now in AI infrastructure where you're just like this looks really really good.
Yeah, so So I like Lambda, who we talked about earlier, but they're about to go public. So like later this year, or maybe 2027. So I think the moment for them is probably past. I would buy them when they go public. The the I like Base 10 a lot. Okay. They have like a $4.7 billion valuation, and their CEO is just out there talking about they're going to do $1 billion in revenue in 2026. So like that's an incredible opportunity. So like I love Base 10. I've got my eye on Fireworks AI. I got my eye on Positron. Fireworks AI is like another kind of base 10 type
Yeah.
company, like meta layer infrastructure. I got Positron, which is another AI semiconductor company focused on inference, right? Inference compute. Those guys are really interesting. Those are probably the three I would say, right now that I really like. And then I still I love Together AI. I love Together AI as well, right? And that's another kind of AI data center play. So those four I have really high conviction on. We haven't pulled the trigger in attempting to make an investment in Base 10 or Fireworks AI or Positron. They're just, in my opinion, kind of like, you know, getting to a point for my investors where we would, where we would make an investment into the company. Prior to is a little bit too early for us, but that's those companies are great businesses. But that's the crew I'm looking at right now. But man, there's like a lot of other great companies coming down the pipe, and a good place to look at is anybody who's getting a deal done with Anthropic or OpenAI is a you should probably be taking a look at those companies, right? If they're doing deals with NVIDIA, Anthropic, or OpenAI, you probably should be taking a look because that's a pretty strong foothold. You know what I mean? To kind of start from. So, um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
those
then
those are the
let's
businesses.
talk about Crusoe for a second then,
Yeah,
because I think that do they have a
that's another good
partnership
one.
with?
Crusoe's another good one too. That's another good one too to look at. Yes, I'd agree.
Yeah, I mean, I had a call with a buddy today who said that he had some Crusoe, and I was like, you know what? I got to do a little bit more research, do some more due diligence, but I think that Crusoe is one of OpenAI's most important infrastructure partners, and they also
Yeah,
have like this moat around like energy efficiency, which just seems to be an increasing problem within the industry.
yeah. So so Crusoe is a solid business. I don't know if NVIDIA is on the cap table at Crusoe. I want to say they are, right? And then I want to go and look at if they're getting allocation of GPUs, what kind of GPU allocation they're getting,
I just looked it up.
based on
Yes, NVIDIA participated in Crusoe's $1.3 billion equity round. They're on the cap table.
yeah. So then they're probably in the flow of getting GPUs, and they have to be, I think, if they're doing deals with
That's pretty
OpenAI
good
and the
looking,
rest. So like,
Aaron.
but
That's
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 it.
good looking.
But this is it. Like that's where it hits the investment criteria. They're getting GPUs from NVIDIA. NVIDIA's on their cap table. Like now you just got to look at the management team, see if they're solid folks. What's their plan? Do they have access to find debt financing? And if they're hitting the mark on those things, then that's a good place to put some chips on the table, right? So I listen, man. I'm a diversification guy. You don't do just one of these companies, right? You do Lambda, Together AI, Crusoe, right? You see what I'm saying? Base 10, Fireworks AI, Positron, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say the name wrong, but they just Anthropic did a deal with a group called Akami. I think it's Akami, I believe, right? So or Kami, right? I'm saying this wrong. It just happened this week, but I never heard of the company, so like it's on my radar now. Like I'm gonna get into them. You know what I mean? But like this is the stuff. Like I would be placing bets across multiple different companies and AI infrastructure companies. I think it'll pay off well for folks. But be diversified. It's important to stay diversified, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I'm really excited to look more into Crusoe. Um, it's I just think there's also like this huge market for inference right now, and it's just like a growing market. Again, like we've been talking about this for like since we started the podcast, but like people still don't get it, Aaron. Like you text me all the time, like people just don't get it still. Like
No.
this is it. This is it. They might not speak the AI language, but if you really want to get the best returns right now, you got to speak the language. And right
I
now, what everyone's telling you is inference. It's inference. It's
I
compute.
I would say just like I would just say for folks like Open your eyes and have the paradigm shift. Like it's already happening. People are already getting laid off because of AI. It's already happening and it's only going to accelerate. We're already out of compute. We didn't build enough. A year ago, everyone was like all up in arms about how much money we were going to put into AI compute and AI data centers. And it was like an obnoxious numbers. It's already happening. Anthropic's revenue goes from 9 billion to 30. Now there's buzz that they're at 45 billion in revenue, and it's been like it's 5 months, right? So like I don't know like what else people need to know. If they're public market people and they're like, oh, I just don't believe this whole AI thing, look at what's happening with the technology companies, which of course would be early adopters. They're all having layoffs, and it's not like 2% of their workforce, 3% of the workforce. It's like 10%, 15% of their workforce is getting let go, right? And these are not like low paying jobs. These are like developers that are getting paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. These are like lucrative jobs that are going away and being replaced by AI. So like that's and that's off of the back of Anthropic uh, um, and OpenAI's Codex, right? Claude Code and Codex and Cursor, right? Which will XAI is going to buy, SpaceX will buy. So like it's those three platforms is driving, you know, 10 plus percentage point layoffs at publicly traded companies. So
Yeah.
wait until the forward deployed engineers show up, right? So like I don't want to sound like an alarmist here, right? But you know, companies they're capitalists, right? They will drive shareholder return, and the people that lose their jobs, they'll find other jobs, right? America's great at this. Like, don't worry, they'll find other jobs. They'll be able to start companies. They'll find a way to survive. Americans are good at that. So like, this is all good. This is all good, right? And maybe the last point I would say too is like everybody I'm talking to is like 2026 is insane for business. It's like a constant, like just deluge, right? It's just everything's happening. Everybody you talk to, how's it going? Man, there's a lot going on. Man, there's a lot going on. Are you doing all right? Yeah, business is great. Like so much going on. Everybody's like slammed.
Yeah.
My thesis on this is AI. Like you're running stuff at night. I'm running stuff at night. I'm doing the work of like three people. I'm one guy, right? You're doing the work of three people. You're one guy. Everybody's doing this, okay? And the compounding effect of the efficiency. No one waits anymore, right? You don't give a project to an analyst and then in 2 days' time they come back. You ask Claude to do it, and in half hour they come back. And then you run another
Yeah.
iteration, and then you make changes, and then you do the next thing. Everything is getting accelerated. This is
Yeah.
everyone is feeling it. No one can put their thumb on it. I'm telling you, that's it. This is it. It's the AI. It's having an impact already, right? So it's here, man. It's happening. This is
we're we're
happening.
we're certainly in interesting times, and I love that you're also like, I love that we can end like this on an optimistic note. Like you're saying, like this is good. America is freaking awesome. Like people will
Yes,
adjust, and also like this AI thing is happening. I don't know about you, Aaron. I've never been more busy in my life. Like I think that AI has
100%.
only made me more busy too. So, you know, I'm happy that like there's this note of optimism, and I hope that we can continue to drive it also because I'm really excited about the future. I heard a quote that the future looks bright, and I think that it
Oh,
does, man. I think that it does.
listen, the future looks very bright. Like the autonomy and agency that this stuff is going to give people is going to be amazing. You know, it's just going to require. Listen, it's going to require work. Like I think gone are the days where you show up at a job and you punch the clock from 9 to 5. Those days are gone. Like you're gonna have to go out there and work. You know what I mean? And but the great news is if you're willing to do the work, you're gonna have all the tools to be able to do anything you want to do, and you can make a lot of money, right? So if you know that's where we're going. We're going to a place of maximum agency for people, right? You don't have to have tons of capital to start a business. You can just do it. You don't even really have to know all the intricate details of it. You can ask the AI and it will tell you what to do. Right. So like there's it's really amazing. It's really amazing. It's really like quite amazing. So folks should 100% embrace
Yeah.
it. Embrace the change, man. It's going to be really powerful. And then as an investors, this is going to be, I think, one of the greatest investment opportunities of at least my lifetime, right? And we've had some pretty incredible things happen in my little lifetime, 20 to 20 of being in the market. So I think this is it. This is going to be, this is the big one, I think, for us. So get involved,
Yeah,
get involved big time.
that's right. That's right. All right, people, you heard it. Be happy, be excited, get excited. And if you're interested in investing in the future, then aaron.dillon at agdillon.com. There we
I'll
go.
call you, right? Come on. You call you, Aaron.Ross. He's the monster
That's
here. Come
right.
on. I love it. I love it.
Hi, Aaron. It's
All
always
right.
great speaking with you. Excited to catch up with you next week, man.
All right, brother. Appreciate you.
All the best, Aaron. Take care.
Okay. Take care. Bye bye.